grade, it's Miss Keck again. For this week in social studies, we are going to learn about what led up to the American Revolution. This is where the United States broke free from Great Britain. So today, I've already set a link that you should have watched that video first about the Boston Tea Party. It's a short video, so if you have not done that, please go watch that first. There is a link in the Google Slides, and there was also a link to the YouTube. So please pause and go watch that first. If you've already watched that video, welcome, and I'm just going to give a quick summary of the Boston Tea Party and give you a couple questions to talk about with your teachers in class. So our learning intention today is to learn about the Boston Tea Party. Who are the people who spoke against and acted against laws they thought were unfair? What causes led up to the Boston Tea Party? What happened and was it really a party? And the effects of the Boston Tea Party. So King George III, he was the king of Great Britain during the Boston Tea Party. In the mid-1700s, the 13 British colonies in North America were getting tired of being ruled by a king. So the colonists escaped Great Britain for freedom, and the king was still in charge of the colonies. So he lived all the way across the Atlantic Oceans, and the colonists could not vote on matters such as taxes they had to pay to England. So England was still charging taxes to the colonists, but the colonists had no say in the matter. So Great Britain had just ended a war. It was called the French and Indian War, and it was expensive. So King George III and the Prime Minister taxed the colonists to pay for it. So they decided to start a Stamp Act, which taxed on all printed materials. So that means playing cards, newspapers, anything that could be printed. So the colonists were self-governed until this time, so opposed the tax. So basically, the colonists had more freedom until this started happening. And so the famous saying, no taxation without representation, started. The colonists wanted to be represented to be able to talk about the taxes and to vote on them, which the colonists were not allowed to do. So, in Boston, on December 16th, 1773, there was a meeting held to discuss what to do about the tax on tea. Over 5,000 colonists attended the meeting. So you can see the building it was held in. But remember, this is before cars, this is before trains. So they either had to walk or ride a horse. So 5,000 people gathering in Boston was a very big deal. So at the moment of the meeting, there were actually 3 English ships in the Boston Harbor. And on board those ships were wooden crates of tea and lots of tea. In fact, there were 342 crates filled with tea, and the value of tea was over $1 million. So here is kind of what that ship would look like. Again, this was before motors. So the ship had sailed all the way from Great Britain across the Atlantic Ocean. So they had a law from Great Britain stating that only one company could sell tea to the colonists, which helped them make money and help control the taxes. So the ships were not allowed to unload the tea by the colonists. The ships had to go to the colony and then unload it themselves. So the Sons of Liberty decided to throw the tea into the harbor as a protest to the taxes. So the Boston Harbor is a teapot tonight. That means they dumped all 342 crates into the water of Boston Harbor. So this made King George very angry because he just lost $1 million in tea and didn't get any taxes for it. So he was upset with the Boston colony, the Massachusetts colony in Boston. So into the harbor they went. It took 90 men over an hour to toss all the tea into the sea. So with all the tea in the water, the harbor began to smell. So the British closed the harbor. So this was very difficult for Boston because the harbor was very important for them to trade and for ships to get into Boston, to leave Boston. So the British decided to put another tax to pay for the tea. And they would not open the harbor until the damage was paid in full. So they decided to punish Boston even more. So British soldiers were going into houses and making the colonists feed them and let them stay there. which is now in our Constitution that cannot happen anymore. But they were allowed to just go knock on a door and say, I live here now, and you have to feed me. So the colony of Massachusetts was put under control of British General Thomas Gage. The port of Boston was closed, so they could not receive goods from anywhere or get their goods out. So they had to pay for the tea that was destroyed. And this really hurt Boston's economy, which means their money flowing into their government and flowing into individual sellers. So these laws were forced people to take a side. Either they had to be loyal to Great Britain or be loyal to the colonies, which is called a patriot. So this angered the colonists even more and eventually led to the American Revolution against British rule. So this is what led up to the American Revolutionary War. So here are the questions I'd like you to talk with your teacher and your classmates when you meet with them on Zoom. 1, who was the king of Great Britain during the Boston Tea Party? 2, how many colonists attended the meeting about the tax on the tea? 3, why do you think the colonists were upset about the taxation without representation? And 4, could something like the Boston Tea Party happen today? Why or why not? So I look forward to talking to you next couple days about more leading up to the American Revolution. We're going to talk about Battle of Bunker Hill next time I see you. Have a great day, fifth grade, and remember to be kind.